First of all, I would say that my Shifu learned at a time when there weren't competitions. If there were Tuisho competitions, they were probably just starting out, and that really, back in the day, that wasn't the tradition of the martial art at all. And I'm not criticizing the advent of those competitions. I think it's probably a lot of fun, and it's a good way for people to practice a certain skill set and test themselves. That's all great. But it's still not the antiquated, it's not the original tradition of things to get into a wrestling competition that has rules. I mean, originally this martial art, if you look at the forms, they are completely full of striking and all kind of complicated spiral applications and joint lock applications. And if you don't see any of those hitting applications or joint lock applications or even arm and hand applications in the presentations of people, you know, this isn't really coming out of the form. What you see in competitions is, you know, they may start with a couple cursory circles, whether they do, you know, these ones, or sometimes they just do this, you know, see them do like this, right? They do a couple, now you put your hand here, right? They do a couple cursory circles like this, and then they're in, okay? And it just generally happens, I mean, not even generally, it's almost 100% of the time that wherever they go from touch distance, they end up in here, okay? Meaning somebody wants, I think, what they call underhooks. You know, the other guy wants it. So it's kind of like there's a matched position, right? One guy's on top, the other guy's inside. They always end up here, and the guy leans, right? You lean, you put your weight on me, right? Right, like this. So they can kind of pull each other back, push each other out of a ring, right? They're using the shoulder and the back, lean with the back, lean on me, right? They're doing this, and they're trying to prevent themselves from being put in a disadvantageous position. So basically, it's not just back and forth, but you have this force here, and then you can kind of trick, right? You can kind of trick and step, right? Or you know, you can quickly flash to this way and, you know, throw somebody, whatever. And basically, it's in a way, it's mainly relying on quick footwork, change of footwork, positional advantage that comes from a flash step, okay? But while you're doing that, the arms are basically locked on the body. So this one I'm locked here because I'm going to use my torso to throw him, okay? And I want to lock this one on here, right? Because he's going to use this arm and his torso to throw me. Okay, and I want to kind of kill this one. You know, I want to kill this arm dead. Go ahead, use some strength here, right? I want to kill this arm, and I want my arm to be live. Meanwhile, I'm going to flash to another position and quickly throw him. Maybe I'm going to call, you know, forward and throw him on his ass, right? Or take a foot back and, you know, whatever it is, okay? So it's got a lot of legit footwork, okay? Most of that footwork probably doesn't originate from the forms themselves, although it's shared in the forms. It's probably coming more out of like judo and shuaijiao and stuff like that. And you know, that's all valid. Some of it you'll see in the forms, and yes, you can enhance it by training the forms, but it's not the original, you know, 古代用法, you know, the old usage of the form, which involves a lot of arms. And the problem is, if you're here, right, and the guy's about to throw you, you can't afford to do anything with your arms. You got to hold on for dear life here. You got to close this down, shut him down, because if he can lift this, he can move me, right? So go ahead, lift it, right? So I got to shut this down, and then I want to move him, okay? So it's generally very tight. I mean, you can watch those competitions, and they're kind of hanging on for dear life with quick footwork, okay? And then they'll bash the guy, flash to a different position, and throw you with a trick, okay? Which is good. It's all fine, but it's a particular rule set, particular situation. right? Their head is really right on your shoulder. And when in our training, we just always call this like, you know, come to Papa. Come to Papa here, because you're just lying on Daddy's shoulder here. You know, this is for martial arts. I'm gonna use an elbow, you know, because the original style comes out of self-defense, you know, protection of self, family, village, all that kind of stuff. And if the guy is going to come in here, I mean, you know, it's just too easy. And to train that habit of, you know, resting on the shoulder, even if it's with force, that is purely sport. You cannot rest your head on anybody's shoulder in self-defense, because they're going to take your teeth out. When I learned from my teacher, if people got into this, and this is back in the back in the days. This is old, right? Times have changed. When I learned at the time, and honestly at that time my Shifu was not even famous. At that time, when people got into this, he would just yell at them. He would just the disgusted look would come over his face, you know, and he would just say, "你干嘛费那么大劲儿？费劲儿，那折腾的嘛，干嘛呢？ You know, you're just wasting all that power and struggle this way and struggle that way, and it's 那么不好看, so ugly. You know, what are you doing? It's like there's not even any deep technique to that." There's a lot more going on at this range, right? A lot of stuff you can do at this range that, you know, that prevents the guy from coming in. If someone gets in here, okay, anybody who's done any fair bit of tuisho or wrestling knows that once a guy gets in here, if he's bigger than you or heavier than you, you're in a bad way if you let them get into the torso, because if you're a lightweight, they'll just pick you up. A collegiate wrestler would just pick you up and throw you on your head in the other direction, all right? So as a smaller guy, you definitely don't want to get into that, you know? In the old days with Taiji Quan, whatever kind of Taiji Quan it was, and other arts as well, they would talk about the 8 gates, right? There's ranges here. So here, you know, right? Back up a little bit. You reach your hand out here, right? This, right? This is like safety range, right? Because he can't hit me and he also can't kick me, right? Here, okay, he can control a wrist. You know what I'm saying? But I could be kicked. We're getting close to kicking range. Here, I mean, all these ranges it's important to understand, but there's all science behind that. There's years of tradition behind that, which we won't, you know, get big into. But to go right to here, you skipped all the ranges and you just let the guy grab your body. If he's bigger, your head is flat. Because the hardest punch in this art is the ground. And if you know, I was gonna say, if you've ever been pile drived on your head, then you know, but, you know, if you have, you're probably not alive to watch it, so. In the Chen Kui line, okay, generally speaking, we don't just go dead on, you know, dumb strength, as they call it, you know, 笨劲, you know, we don't do that. Just grab and, you know, just yank the guy around. No, that's not what it's about. We're trying to look for some kind of a science and a leverage, you know, some kind of advantage where really, that's what they always said, you know, whatever 4 ounces moves 1,000 pounds. If you're not employing some of that somehow, you're not even following the art, you know? You have to have some advantage for the little guy. I mean, come on, help me out here. I am the little guy, so you gotta have some advantage, so you gotta have some techniques, you know? Some way to deal with somebody who is bigger, and some way to stop yourself from getting thrown on your head. That's about it. So generally speaking, you know, there's a lot of control that we can have out here, okay? We're not going in and just grab the body. Well, we do have moves, we have techniques where we will grab the body, but it's not that dead, that dead contest, between two bulls, and that's what we want to avoid. And I would say that's a pretty big difference between the Chen Kui line as it goes through Chen Yu and myself, and the village and the sports and all that. People are sometimes mistaken about forms because they look at it like it's it's performance, right? Or it's this like magical movement of qi and all this stuff. But really, I mean, maybe all those things are true, but it's also a deep lexicon, a deep dictionary of many applications. And if you want to know what those are, you have to pull them out. You can't just practice the form and think you're going to know that stuff. You got to pull them out. And so one of the things that I find interesting, and why I come to visit Byron as well, is like Xingyi Quan. It's kind of interesting. Taiji Quan and Xingyi Quan are sort of like mirror images in a way, because Taiji Quan packs all this stuff into this long sinking form, right? And then it leaves you to fend for yourself, right? It's sort of like my teacher when I was learning from him. He'd show me an application, and we'd all be like, the jaw would be on the floor, like, how the hell did you do that? And then he'd laugh at you and walk away, and say, figure it out, And maybe you did, maybe you didn't. And then maybe he's going to teach you later, but he's got to have his fun with you first. And so that's kind of like Taiji Quan is like, it's all packed in there, and you got to figure some stuff out. You have to be taught a bunch of stuff, But even if you're taught the applications, let's say you were taught very clearly a particular set of applications for a particular section of the form or a particular type of move, it's still your homework to pull that thing out and develop it over 10 years or whatever it is, okay? The difference is Xingyi Quan, by contrast, has those moves pulled out already. So it's an art that, to my understanding, is pretty much based on line drills, right? So Xingyi Quan is based on line drills. The primary method is line drills. Hit, hit, walk, walk, hit, hit, turn, hit, hit, right? And each hit, you can practice that one hit a million times like a Japanese, sword cut, right? To perfect it. And then the less promoted area of the Xingyi Quan art is the forms. Yeah, they have the forms, but when you see people practicing Xingyi Quan forms, it's kind of like, oh, they're performing, at least from the outside. I don't practice the art, but I'm looking at, they're performing, that's a nice form. They're performing. But when you want to see the real art, you can watch them do the boring hit, walk, Everybody says, Jesus, that's boring. And I'm like, no, that's the art. That's the skill, is the drilling. Taiji starts from the big form, with all the stuff packed in, and most people can't even see it. They won't ever understand it. If you're well taught, maybe you can pick it out and you can work on it and progress towards drills. And you can develop your drilling skill, your detailed, focused skill on developing all these abilities. And then you can go back to form, and now you have really something rich in that form. Nobody else can see it. They don't know what you're doing. They don't know why it's good. They don't know what it means. And Xingyi Quan is from the other end of the spectrum, where you're starting with drills. But you got to be able to have the knowledge to pluck that out of the form and do it exactly the right way and practice the drills. And in that sense, they really are the same, but the method of practice starts from the two different poles.